Beneath these shifting sands lie entire worlds forgotten by time. The desert is a perfect preserver, a vast museum of the ancient and unexplained, and today we are opening its doors. You are about to journey through 35 of history's most captivating desert mysteries, from legendary cities erased by storms to artifacts that defy all logic. You will uncover the truth behind the vanished army of 50,000 soldiers and the desert kites that trapped entire herds of animals. By the end of this exploration, you will possess a new understanding of just how much of our past remains a brilliant, unsolved puzzle. What is the one ancient mystery you hope still holds an answer? A city of legendary wealth swallowed whole by the desert. This is the enduring tale of Iram of the Pillars, a place so magnificent and so utterly lost it has earned the name the Atlantis of the Sands. Ancient texts, including the Quran, speak of a metropolis of unparalleled splendor built by the powerful tribe of Ad. Its towers were said to scrape the sky, a testament to its people's skill and, according to legend, their overwhelming pride. The story goes that their arrogance grew so great that a divine punishment was unleashed, a savage sandstorm that raged for 7 nights and 8 days, burying the city and all its inhabitants beneath the dunes, erasing it from the world as if it had never been. For centuries, it was just that, a powerful myth. Then, in the late 20th century, a team of researchers, guided by ancient maps and the tales of Bedouin tribes, turned to the stars for answers. Using satellite imagery and radar data from NASA space shuttle missions, they pinpointed the location of what appeared to be a major settlement in the deserts of Oman. The site, known as Ubar, lay along ancient frankincense trade routes, a perfect match for a city famed for its wealth. Excavations revealed massive fortifications and a giant limestone cavern that had collapsed, suggesting the city did not simply vanish but fell into the earth. The discovery ignited a fierce debate that continues to this day. Is this sun-bleached ruin truly the fabled Iram, or is it merely another wealthy trade hub that met a catastrophic end, its story later merging with the grander legend? The search for a definitive answer continues, a reminder that some mysteries are only deepened by the evidence we uncover. Far to the south, in the high deserts of Peru, an entirely different kind of mystery stretches across the earth. The Nazca Plateau is a vast, stony canvas, one of the driest landscapes on the planet, where the lack of rain and wind has preserved something extraordinary. Scratched into the dark desert pavement are hundreds of enormous geoglyphs, lines and shapes so immense their full form is only visible from the sky. From up high, you can see a hummingbird with wings outstretched, a spider with impossibly long legs, a monkey with a coiled tail, and a strange, humanoid figure often called the astronaut. These are not small drawings. They span hundreds of feet, their lines running perfectly straight for miles across the rugged terrain. The question of why the Nazca people created these colossal images is a puzzle that has fueled decades of debate. Some researchers propose they were a giant astronomical calendar, aligning with the sun, moon, and stars to mark seasons for planting and harvest. Others believe they were sacred pathways, walked during religious rituals to call upon the gods, perhaps for the one thing this arid land needed most: water. Then there are the more speculative ideas, suggesting these precise formations could only have been designed with the help of visitors from other worlds or with the aid of advanced, lost technology like hot air balloons. While these capture the imagination, most archaeologists point to simpler yet brilliant methods. The Nazca could have used a system of ropes and stakes to create small-scale models, then scaled these designs up using a precise grid system, clearing the dark surface rocks to reveal the lighter soil beneath. They did not need to see the whole picture from above. They only needed to follow their carefully laid plans from the ground, one painstaking step at a time. The true purpose of the Nazca lines may forever be intertwined with the spiritual world of their creators, a message written on the desert floor not for us but for the heavens they revered. From the sprawling geoglyphs of Peru, we travel to the windswept steppes of Central Asia, home to one of history's most enduring and deliberate secrets. The location of Genghis Khan's tomb is perhaps the greatest prize in all of archaeology, a mystery protected by a terrifying and effective strategy. After his death in 1227, the legendary founder of the Mongol Empire was to be laid to rest in a place of absolute secrecy. His funeral procession, a solemn caravan of loyal followers, embarked on a grim mission. According to chroniclers, they killed every single person they encountered along the route, ensuring no witness could ever reveal their path. Upon reaching the chosen burial site, the legend grows even more extreme. They are said to have diverted the flow of a river directly over his grave, using the water itself as a permanent, shifting shroud. Then, to complete the erasure, the slaves who built the tomb were executed, and the soldiers who carried out those executions were themselves killed. The earth was then trampled by 1,000 horses to make it indistinguishable from the surrounding wilderness. It was a system of total obfuscation, and it worked perfectly. For centuries, the tomb has remained hidden, its secret dying with the last of those loyal guards. The motivation for such extreme measures was twofold. First, it was to prevent desecration by his many enemies, but second, and perhaps more compelling, was the belief that the tomb holds immeasurable wealth, the accumulated plunder of a continent, buried with the great Khan to accompany him into the afterlife. This is not just a search for bones, it is a hunt for a lost treasury and a profound connection to a figure who reshaped the world. Modern expeditions have swept across Mongolia, armed not with shovels, but with satellite imagery and advanced ground-penetrating radar. They scan the landscape from above, looking for subtle anomalies in the terrain that could signal ancient construction. The challenge is immense, a needle in a haystack the size of a nation. Yet the search continues, driven by the promise of unlocking the final secret of a man whose life was an open book of conquest, but whose death remains a perfect, silent mystery. Its legendary power was said to level mountains and lay waste to armies, a golden chest so sacred it was believed to hold the very presence of the divine. This is the Ark of the Covenant, and its disappearance is one of history's most profound enigmas. According to the Hebrew Bible, the Ark resided in the Temple of Jerusalem for centuries, but after the city was sacked by the Babylonians in the 6th century before the Common Era, it vanished from the historical record, never to be seen again. Where did it go? One of the most compelling and enduring claims comes from the highlands of Ethiopia. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church asserts that the Ark was brought to their city of Axum, where it resides to this day within the chapel of the tablet, next to the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion. The story begins with the Queen of Sheba's legendary visit to King Solomon. Tradition holds that their union produced a son, Menelik I, who later traveled to Jerusalem to meet his father. Upon his return to Ethiopia, Menelik and his companions are said to have taken the Ark with them, leaving a perfect replica in its place in the temple. In Axum, the Ark is guarded by a single, chosen monk, a guardian who dedicates his entire life to its protection, never leaving the sacred grounds and never being seen by the public. This claim, while deeply rooted in faith and national identity, is impossible to verify as no outsider is permitted to lay eyes on the object. Other theories send researchers on very different quests. Some scholars believe the Ark was never moved at all, that it was hidden in a secret chamber deep beneath the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, a location now fraught with political and religious tension, making excavation impossible. Another hypothesis suggests it was taken to Egypt for safekeeping, perhaps lost in the labyrinthine ruins of an ancient city like Tanis. There are even those who point to a copper scroll found near the Dead Sea, which some interpret as a treasure map hinting at the Ark's burial in a remote desert cave. The search is fueled by more than historical curiosity. It is driven by the Ark's described power, a force that could decide the fates of nations. Is it a lost relic of gold and wood waiting to be unearthed by a lucky archaeologist, or is its true power the enduring mystery itself, a story that continues to captivate and elude us all? Scattered across the arid plains of the Middle East, from the deserts of Saudi Arabia to the highlands of Armenia, are vast stone constructions that only make sense from the air. These are the desert kites, enormous structures that earned their name from their appearance to early airplane pilots, who saw their long, converging lines and central enclosures resembling a child's kite on a string. But these are not toys. They are among the world's oldest and most sophisticated hunting traps, a testament to human survival in an unforgiving landscape. Built from uncounted tons of local rock, the kites functioned with brutal efficiency. They consist of two long, low walls, sometimes stretching for miles, that act as funnels, guiding herds of gazelles, wild asses, and other game across the open desert. These walls narrow steadily, channeling the panicked animals directly into a central enclosure, a stone corral where they would be trapped. Many of these enclosures feature deep, camouflaged pits, ensuring the capture was swift and final. The true mystery of the desert kites lies not in their function, but in their staggering age and the profound cooperation they represent. Recent studies suggest some of these structures are up to 9,000 years old, placing their construction deep in the Neolithic era, long before the invention of writing or the wheel. This was a time when human societies were just beginning to settle down, yet they were capable of organizing labor on a massive scale. Building a single kite would have required the coordinated effort of an entire community, a shared understanding of animal migration, and the ability to pass this complex knowledge down through countless generations. Why would these early peoples invest so much energy into such colossal projects? The answer lies in the harsh logic of the desert. A single, successful communal hunt using a kite could yield enough meat to sustain a large group for weeks, a vital buffer against scarcity. The kites are more than just traps. They are a Stone Age blueprint for society, a permanent fixture on the landscape that speaks of planning, shared purpose, and a deep, ingenious understanding of the natural world. They force us to reconsider what we know about prehistoric hunters, transforming them from simple nomadic bands into master architects of their own survival. Her discovery would rewrite the map of ancient human migration. In the relentless dryness of the Taklamakan Desert, one of the most forbidding places on Earth, Chinese archaeologists made a find that defied all expectation: the perfectly preserved body of a young woman. She was lying on her side, as if in a deep sleep, her head resting peacefully on a pillow. They named her the Beauty of Lulan, and she had been resting in the sands for nearly 4,000 years. Her features were not what anyone anticipated. She had high cheekbones, a long, narrow nose, and flowing light brown hair, all distinctly Caucasian. She was dressed in a finely woven cloak and leather shoes, and a simple string of herbs lay across her chest, a final offering. How did a woman who looked like she belonged to the forests of Europe come to be buried in the heart of Asia, centuries before the Silk Road was even a concept? She was not alone. Dozens of other mummies with similar European features have since been unearthed from the Tarim Basin, their clothing, tools, and even the patterns woven into their textiles feeling completely out of place. For decades, the mystery tormented historians. Were they lost travelers, a lone band of Western migrants who perished in the desert? The truth, revealed by cutting-edge genetic analysis, was far more revolutionary. DNA testing confirmed that the Beauty of Lulan and her people were direct descendants of an ancient North Eurasian population, a group of hunter-gatherers who once roamed a vast territory from Europe to Siberia. They were not recent arrivals who had trekked across the continent. Instead, their ancestors had been living in this part of Central Asia for millennia, a vibrant, isolated branch of humanity that had developed its own unique culture right in the middle of what would become China. This discovery shattered long-held narratives about the peopling of this region. It proved that East and West were not separate worlds in antiquity, their populations developing in isolation. These deserts were a prehistoric melting pot, a crossroads where different peoples met and mingled far earlier than anyone had ever dreamed. The beauty of Lulan does not simply ask who she was, she forces us to ask a much larger question. How many other ancient stories, written in bone and buried in sand, are waiting to overturn everything we think we know? Standing guard on the Giza Plateau for millennia, the Great Sphinx presents a face we all recognize, yet its true story remains one of Egypt's most fiercely debated secrets. While conventional Egyptology dates this colossal statue to the reign of Pharaoh Khafre around 2,500 years before the Common Era, a compelling geological mystery challenges this very foundation. Some scientists point to the deep, rolling, undulating erosion patterns on the Sphinx's body and the walls of its enclosure. This type of weathering, they argue, was not caused by wind and sand, but by thousands of years of heavy, persistent rainfall. The last time the Giza region experienced a climate that wet was over 7,000 years ago at the end of the last ice age. This water erosion hypothesis suggests the Sphinx could be far more ancient than we ever imagined, a relic from a lost epoch that was already old when the pyramids were built. If true, who built it and what civilization possessed the skill to carve such a monument in deep antiquity? The statue's own visage adds another layer of intrigue. The face we see today is noticeably battered, its nose famously missing. While popular legend often blames Napoleonic soldiers for the damage, historical accounts from centuries before Napoleon show the Sphinx already without its nose. The original features are lost to us, leading to speculation about whether it always bore the face of a pharaoh, or if it was recarved in a later era from an even older leonine head. Who did it first represent? Then there is the question of what lies beneath. Seismic surveys and studies of the bedrock have indicated the possibility of anomalies, hollow spaces, and tunnels under the Sphinx, particularly between its massive pores and along its sides. Could these be natural fissures in the limestone, or are they man-made chambers, perhaps containing records from a lost age or the grave of its original architect? The debate between geologists and archaeologists is not just about dates and erosion patterns. It is a fundamental clash over the timeline of human civilization itself. Is the Sphinx the proud contemporary of the pyramids, or is it a silent, weathered survivor from a forgotten world, its original purpose and creators erased by the shifting sands of time and climate? High on the sun-baked cliffs of the American Southwest, an entire civilization simply walked away. The Anasazi, ancestors of the modern Pueblo peoples, were masters of their harsh environment. They constructed breathtaking multi-story cities tucked into sheer canyon walls, like the sprawling complex at Mesa Verde, with its 250 rooms all sheltered within a single massive alcove. Their stone towers reached several stories high, and their circular, subterranean kivas served as sacred spaces for community and ceremony. They engineered vast road systems that stretched for dozens of miles, perfectly straight, connecting distant communities across the rugged terrain. They were brilliant astronomers, carving precise spirals into rock faces that acted as solar calendars, marking the solstices with a dagger of light. Then, around 1300, everything changed. The great houses fell silent, the hearths grew cold. Over the course of just a few decades, they abandoned their magnificent cliff dwellings, leaving behind pottery, tools, and the very bones of their ancestors. Why would a people so deeply rooted in a place simply vanish? The leading theory points to a catastrophe of climate. Tree ring data reveals a devastating 50-year megadrought that gripped the region, a prolonged period of scarcity that would have withered crops and emptied water stores. But was it just the weather? Evidence suggests their growing population may have pushed the fragile desert environment to its limit, with forests cleared for construction and farmland exhausted from overuse. This environmental pressure could have sparked social turmoil, even violence. Archaeologists have found signs of conflict, including burned structures and unburied bodies, hinting at a society fracturing from within under the strain. So where did they go? They did not simply disappear from the earth. The prevailing belief is that this was not an end but a migration. Facing an untenable situation, the Anasazi likely traveled south, their communities breaking into smaller groups that eventually integrated with other peoples. The oral histories of the Hopi and Zuni tribes who still live in the region today speak of this very journey, of their ancestors emerging into this world and searching for the center place. Their stories, passed down through countless generations, may be the final, living clue to this ancient exodus, a reminder that sometimes a civilization's greatest legacy is not the stone cities it leaves behind, but the resilient people who carry its memory forward. This simple clay jar could be one of the most controversial artifacts ever unearthed. Known as the Baghdad battery, it consists of a terracotta pot, a copper cylinder, and an iron rod, all sealed together with an asphalt plug. When discovered near Baghdad in the 1930s, it was initially catalogued as a curious object from the Parthian era, around 2,000 years ago. But decades later, a new theory would ignite a firestorm of debate. If this jar were filled with an acidic liquid like vinegar or grape juice, it would function as a basic galvanic cell, capable of producing a small but consistent electric current. The idea that an ancient civilization might have harnessed electricity is staggering. Proponents of the battery theory suggest a practical, if wondrous, application: electroplating. A weak electrical current could be used to deposit a thin layer of gold or silver onto another metal, a technique that would explain the existence of exquisitely gilded artifacts from that period that seemed to lack any solder. Imagine an artisan in a Parthian workshop using this primitive battery to make a silver statue gleam with a coat of gold, a feat of ancient technology we never thought possible. Yet many archaeologists remain deeply skeptical. They offer a far more mundane explanation. The object, they argue, is far more likely a storage vessel for sacred scrolls made of papyrus or parchment. The iron rod would have been a simple handle to roll the scroll, which was placed inside the copper cylinder, and the asphalt seal was merely to keep out moisture and protect the precious texts. This interpretation fits neatly with other known storage containers from the same time and place. The debate ultimately forces us to confront a fundamental question about the past. Did ancient peoples stumble upon the principles of electricity, using them for a specific, niche purpose that was later lost to time? Or are we, with our modern fascination with technology, simply projecting our own knowledge onto a simple clay pot, seeing a battery where there was only a jar? Whether it powered a forgotten craft or preserved sacred words, the Baghdad battery remains a powerful symbol, a humble object that challenges the very timeline of human invention. Across the sea, in the green fields of Brittany, France, stands a mystery in stone that rivals the scale of any desert monument. The Karnak alignments are a breathtaking collection of over 3,000 prehistoric standing stones, arranged in long, parallel rows that stretch for miles across the landscape. These are not random boulders. They form one of the most dense and orderly concentrations of megaliths anywhere in the world. The sheer effort required to erect these stones, some weighing many tons, is a testament to a sophisticated and highly organized society that existed here thousands of years before the Romans ever set foot in Gaul. The site is a complex puzzle of different structures. The most famous are the menhirs, the tall, single-standing stones arranged in their astonishing lines. But there are also dolmens, which are table-like structures made of a large capstone balanced on supporting stones, often used as collective burial tombs. And there are tumuli, great man-made mounds of earth covering a central burial chamber. The scale is almost incomprehensible, a project that would have required generations of sustained labor. So what was the purpose of this colossal undertaking? The most prominent theory suggests the alignments functioned as a giant astronomical observatory and calendar. The precise positioning of the stones appears to mark significant solar and lunar events like the solstices. A person standing at one end of the lines on a specific day might see the sun rise directly over a particular stone at the other end, turning the entire landscape into a celestial clock. This would have been vital for an agricultural society, dictating the timing for planting and harvest. Others believe it was a sacred space for rituals and ancestor worship. The proximity of the dolmens and tumuli, the houses of the dead, to the alignments suggests a deep spiritual connection to the land and to lineage. Perhaps the living process between these lines of stones to commune with their ancestors, the men, here's acting as a permanent link between the world of the living and the realm of the spirits. One of the more unconventional theories even proposes that the stones were an ancient earthquake detection system. The idea is that the standing stones, planted deep in the ground, could act as sensitive seismic antennas, their subtle vibrations warning the community of distant tremors. While intriguing, this remains a minority view as the evidence is largely speculative. The truth is, after centuries of study, no single explanation fully satisfies. The Karnak stones stand as a silent, monumental question. They represent a communal vision so powerful it moved mountains, yet its meaning is locked away, a secret kept by the very people who invested their lives in its creation. Deep within the sea of sand that is the Sahara, generations of Bedouin storytellers whispered of a phantom city. They called it Zerzura, the oasis of the small birds, a place of white walls, cool springs, and untold treasure, hidden in a wadi, a dry river valley accessible only by a secret path. It was a shimmering mirage of a legend, a promise of life in the heart of absolute desolation. This fable was not just a local tale, it became an obsession for European explorers in the early 20th century, a blank spot on the map that called to their hearts. Figures like the British soldier Ralph Bagnold and the Hungarian Count Laszlo Olmosy, the man who would later be immortalized as the English patient, dedicated years of their lives to the search. Olmosy, in particular, became consumed by the quest, poring over ancient texts and crisscrossing the vast, empty expanse of the Libyan desert and the Gilf Kebir Plateau in his frail, early-model automobiles, convinced the city was real. Their expeditions were acts of immense endurance, navigating by the stars and sun across dunes that could swallow a man whole, all for the chance of finding a place many considered a pure fantasy. So was Zerzura just a beautiful mirage of folklore, a story told to make the desert night seem less lonely? The evidence suggests a more complex truth. Explorers did not find a city of white stone, but they did discover something almost as profound. In remote caves of the Gilf Kebir, they found prehistoric rock art depicting lush savannas, rivers teeming with fish, and herds of animals like giraffes and elephants, creatures that could not survive in the desert of today. These paintings were not fiction, they were a historical record. They proved that thousands of years ago, this barren wilderness was a green and fertile land. The lost oasis was likely not a single hidden city, but a memory of that lost world, a collective folk memory of a time when water was plentiful and life thrived. As the climate changed and the desert advanced, the last verdant valleys would have vanished, their locations forgotten, until all that remained was the legend of a paradise lost to the sands. The search for Zerzura, then, was not a failure. It was the pursuit of an echo, a journey that ultimately uncovered a far greater mystery, the ghost of a green Sahara. While the other Dead Sea Scrolls whispered sacred texts on fragile parchment, one was different. It was a document of metal, a sheet of beaten copper, and it spoke not of prophets but of plunder. This is the Copper Scroll, and it is arguably the most maddening treasure map in the world. Unlike its literary companions found in the Qumran caves, this scroll is brutally practical. It contains no psalms or prophecies, only a stark list. Column after column, it meticulously itemizes unimaginable wealth, 64 separate caches of gold and silver, with precise weights given in talents, a unit so large that the total sum described would be worth hundreds of millions today. The text reads like an inventory from a king's vault, but it is the locations that have driven explorers to despair. The directions are infuriatingly vague, referring to a ruin in the valley, a crack in the rock, or a cistern with two openings. These landmarks, if they ever existed, have been utterly lost to 2,000 years of erosion, war, and the shifting landscape. The scroll even seems to deliberately obscure its own clues, mentioning that one portion of the treasure is hidden under a staircase and another in a tunnel that has no entrance. It is a riddle wrapped in a mystery, written on a material meant to last for eternity. The most compelling theory points to a heart-wrenching source for this immense wealth. Many scholars believe the Copper Scroll is a factual record of the treasure from the Second Temple in Jerusalem, hidden away by priests just before the Roman legions sacked and burned the city in 70 Common Era. The described quantities of gold and silver, the sheer scale of it, match what historical records suggest was housed in the temple. If this is true, the scroll is not just a list of riches, it is a desperate act of preservation, a last-ditch effort to save the most sacred treasures of a nation from being melted down or carried off as spoils of war. The priests would have chosen copper for a reason. Parchment would rot, but metal would endure, a permanent testament waiting for the day their people could return and reclaim their heritage. Yet, for all its tantalizing promise, the Copper Scroll has never yielded its secrets. Every expedition based on its clues has returned empty-handed. Is the treasure still out there, buried beneath the dust of a forgotten valley, or was it discovered and quietly looted centuries ago, its metallic map left behind as the ultimate false promise? The copper endures, its message clear, its meaning forever just out of reach. These enigmatic stone vessels rest in silent clusters across the remote highlands of Laos. The Plain of Jars is exactly what its name suggests, a vast, rolling landscape dotted with thousands of colossal stone jars, some standing over 9 feet tall and weighing many tons. They are hewn from solid rock, their shapes rough and organic, as if they grew straight from the earth itself. How they were carved, moved, and arranged by an ancient people without modern technology is a question that hangs heavily in the mountain air. Local legend offers a creation story of epic proportions. It speaks of a race of giants, the Khun-Chim, who ruled this land in a forgotten age. After a great military victory, the king commanded the creation of these massive jars to brew a virtually endless supply of rice beer, a celebratory feast on a scale fit for giants. It is a tale that gives these inanimate stones a pulse of life and community, transforming them from mere objects into relics of a legendary party. Archaeology, however, points to a far more solemn purpose. The prevailing theory is that these jars were part of an intricate funerary practice. Researchers believe they were used as either primary urns to hold the cremated ashes of the dead, or, more intriguingly, as containers for a practice known as excarnation. In this process, bodies would be placed inside the jars to decompose, exposed to the elements, a method of freeing the bones from the flesh before a final, secondary burial. This idea is supported by the discovery of human remains, burial goods, and ceramic pots around the jar sites, suggesting these plains were not for the living but sacred resting places for the deceased. Yet, uncovering the full truth is a perilous endeavor. The Plain of Jars lies in a region that was heavily bombed during the Vietnam War, leaving the land saturated with unexploded ordnance. To this day, cleared paths marked by red and white stakes are the only safe routes for archaeologists and the rare, intrepid visitor. This deadly legacy has effectively locked the mystery in place, preventing large-scale excavation and leaving the deepest questions unanswered. The jars remain stoic and silent, their secrets guarded as much by the dangers of the modern world as by the passage of ancient time. Some mysteries are not written in sand but on fragile vellum pages. The Voynich manuscript is a book that should not exist, a 240-page puzzle that has resisted every attempt at understanding for over 5 centuries. Created in the early 15th century, its pages are filled from edge to edge with a flowing, elegant script in a language that is utterly unknown. Not a single word of it has ever been definitively matched to any human tongue. Alongside this incomprehensible text are illustrations that only deepen the confusion. There are drawings of plants that are botanically impossible, with leaves and roots that belong to no known species. There are intricate astrological diagrams featuring unfamiliar constellations and nude women bathing in a system of interconnected green pipes. There are cosmological charts of realms that do not correspond to any known model of the universe. It is a world captured in ink entirely of its own making. The manuscript's resistance to decipherment is legendary. It has passed through the hands of emperors and rare book dealers, and it has been studied by the finest minds in cryptography. After the Second World War, a team of American codebreakers, the very same men who had cracked the Japanese and German ciphers, turned their formidable skills to the Voynich. They applied every modern technique, searching for patterns, frequencies, and structures that would betray its meaning. They failed completely. The manuscript's internal structure is just coherent enough to suggest a real language, yet it remains impervious to all analytical attacks. This profound resistance has spawned a multitude of theories. Could it be an incredibly elaborate and expensive hoax, crafted to dupe a wealthy medieval patron? The sheer effort involved makes this seem almost as incredible as the book itself. Perhaps it is a coded book of secrets containing alchemical formulas or heretical knowledge that its author needed to conceal at all costs. Some researchers propose it is a treatise on an unknown natural science, a parallel botany and cosmology developed in isolation and then lost. The most speculative theory suggests it is written in a constructed language, a philosophical tongue created from scratch to express concepts for which no existing word sufficed. Each theory has its champions and its flaws, and the manuscript gives up no clues, offering only its beautiful, maddening silence. It is a locked box from the past, and we have not yet found the key. Their silent gaze is fixed on a horizon they have not seen for centuries. The Moai of Easter Island are not merely heads, but colossal stone figures with full bodies, many buried up to their shoulders in the earth, standing guard over one of the most isolated spots on the planet. These giants, carved from compressed volcanic ash, weigh up to 80 tons and tower as high as a 3-story building. The sheer scale of their creation is a monument to human ambition. In the quarry of Rono-Roroku, the island's volcanic factory, you can still see the evidence of this immense undertaking. Hundreds of statues in various stages of completion are frozen in the mountainside, as if the workers simply walked away one day, their tools left behind. The question of how the Rapa Nui people moved these multi-ton monoliths across miles of rugged terrain has sparked endless debate and experimentation. One prevailing theory suggests they were walked upright, rocked from side to side in a careful, rhythmic motion, using a system of ropes and human power to maneuver them in a slow, staggering gait. Another proposes they were laid flat on a sled-like contraption and pulled over log rails. Both methods would have required the coordinated effort of dozens, if not hundreds, of people, a feat of social organization as much as engineering. Why did they commit such vast resources to this singular purpose? The Moai were not just art, they were sacred vessels. They are believed to represent deified ancestors, their backs to the sea, watching over the living communities, their mana or spiritual power, ensuring prosperity and protection for the clan. This spiritual drive fueled a cultural arms race, with different clans competing to erect larger and more impressive statues. But this very drive may have sown the seeds of their own destruction. The island's dramatic collapse is a haunting lesson in sustainability. To move the statues, they needed rollers and levers, which required trees, lots of them. Pollen analysis tells a grim story of gradual ecological suicide. The lush palm forests that once covered the island were systematically cleared, leading to catastrophic soil erosion. Without trees to build fishing canoes, the protein from the sea dwindled. Without forest cover, crops failed. The society that had built giants began to fracture, descending into famine, warfare, and even cannibalism. The evidence is etched into the landscape itself, with toppled moai, their backs broken, a symbol of a shattered social order. The final blow came from the outside. With the arrival of European explorers in the 18th century, came new horrors, diseases like smallpox for which the islanders had no immunity, and brutal slave raids that abducted much of the remaining population. The civilization that had carved its soul into the mountain was brought to its knees by a combination of its own hubris and external catastrophe. The story of Easter Island is a powerful, sobering allegory. It asks us what we are building today and what we might be cutting down in the process, a question that echoes far beyond its remote, rocky shores. Sunken in the wreck of a Roman cargo ship for 2,000 years, a lump of corroded bronze and wood revealed a secret that would shatter our understanding of ancient technology. Discovered by sponge divers off the Greek island of Antikythera in 1901, the object was initially overlooked amidst statues and pottery. It was not until decades later, when archaeologists took a closer look, that they realized this was no ordinary piece of scrap. Through painstaking analysis and advanced imaging, they uncovered a complex clockwork device of interlocking gears, a technological marvel so advanced it would not be rivaled again until the mechanical clocks of the 14th century. This was the Antikythera mechanism, an ancient Greek analog computer. Its purpose was to model the cosmos. By turning a hand crank on the side, an operator could calculate the movements of the sun, the moon, and the 5 known planets across the zodiac. It could predict lunar and solar eclipses with remarkable accuracy, and it even included a dial that tracked the 4-year cycle of the Olympic and other Panhellenic Games. The device was a portable universe, a miniature orrery powered not by electricity, but by human ingenuity and a system of at least 30 precision-cut bronze gears. The existence of such a machine implies a level of scientific and technical knowledge in the Hellenistic world that historians never imagined. This was not a one-off experiment. The craftsmanship is too refined, the underlying mathematics too sophisticated. It suggests a tradition, a school of engineering and astronomy that flourished in places like Alexandria, where scholars like Archimedes and Hipparchus were pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. The mechanism is a physical echo of a lost golden age of science. So how could something so revolutionary simply vanish from history? The answer is written in the flames of war and the slow collapse of an empire. As the Roman Republic expanded, it absorbed Greek knowledge but often focused on its practical applications like architecture and aqueducts, rather than the theoretical underpinnings of such complex devices. The great libraries, like the one in Alexandria, were eventually destroyed, taking with them countless scrolls of advanced learning. The specialized craftsmen who could build such intricate mechanisms likely found fewer and fewer patrons, their knowledge dying with them. The Antikythera mechanism was a glimpse of a path not taken, a technological spring that arrived too early and was frozen by a long winter. Its silent gears ask us a haunting question. If this one device survived by chance at the bottom of the sea, what other wonders of the ancient scientific mind have been lost to time forever? Hidden within the river deltas and jungles of Costa Rica, another ancient puzzle waits in plain sight. The stone spheres of the Diquis Delta, known locally as Los Bolas, are nearly perfect man-made orbs, some as large as a small car. Their precision is staggering, with many spheres achieving a near-flawless roundness that would be challenging to replicate even with modern machinery. The material they are made from only deepens the mystery. They were carved from granodiorite, an incredibly hard rock akin to granite. The pre-Columbian people who created them over 1,000 years ago had no metal tools. Instead, they would have used other rocks as hammers, patiently pecking away at large boulders. then using sand and water to grind and polish them to their breathtaking smoothness over generations. The sheer, patient labor involved is a monument in itself. But why? What drove a society to invest such immense effort into creating these perfect forms? The theories are as varied as the spheres themselves. Some researchers propose they were sophisticated astronomical markers, arranged in specific patterns to align with celestial events like solstices or equinoxes, turning the landscape into a giant observatory. Others see them as powerful status symbols, with the largest and most perfect spheres belonging to the most important chiefs or families, their size and placement declaring their owners' wealth and influence for all to see. A more symbolic idea suggests they were physical representations of celestial bodies, perhaps the sun, moon, or even the entire cosmos, embodying the people's understanding of a round world in a round sky. They could have also served as territorial markers denoting sacred spaces, clan lands, or important trade routes, yet the truth has been tragically obscured. When banana plantations expanded across the region in the 20th century, workers moved many of the spheres using heavy machinery, rolling them to new locations to adorn the lawns of company buildings and wealthy homes. This well-intentioned looting ripped them from their original archaeological context, scattering the clues that could have told us their true story. We are left with the beautiful, silent spheres, but the map showing their original arrangement is lost. We can admire their perfection, but we can no longer hear the conversation they were having with each other or with the stars. Herodotus tells a chilling tale of royal vengeance and a force of 50,000 men swallowed by the desert. The Persian king Cambyses II, enraged that the priests at the oracle of Ammon in the Siwa oasis refused to legitimize his rule over Egypt, dispatched his massive army to cross the western desert and destroy the sacred temple. This was no simple march, it was a journey into one of the most hostile environments on Earth. According to the ancient historian, the soldiers set out from the Nile Valley, but they never reached their destination. A massive, ferocious sandstorm, a haboob of unimaginable scale, descended upon them, burying every man, along with their weapons, supplies, and horses beneath the dunes. The entire army vanished without a trace, becoming one of history's most enduring ghost stories. For centuries, it was dismissed as just that, a dramatic fable from the father of history. But what if it really happened? The search for this lost legion has become a modern obsession, a quest to find physical proof for a story 2,500 years old. The most sensational claim came from a pair of Italian twin brothers, Angelo and Alfredo Castiglione. After years of exploration, they announced a stunning discovery in the vast sand sea. They reported finding a mass grave containing hundreds of human bones, along with fragments of Persian weapons, bronze daggers, arrowheads, and scattered pottery, all dated to the correct era. They believed they had finally found the remnants of Cambyses's doomed army. The archaeological world, however, reacted with deep skepticism. Mainstream Egyptologists questioned the methods and the evidence. Could these bones, scattered by centuries of wind and shifting sands, truly be linked to a single catastrophic event? Or were they the remains of a common graveyard, or even victims from a much later period, simply gathered in one place by the desert's relentless movement? The brothers' findings remain hotly contested, a controversial footnote rather than a settled case. The desert guards its secrets jealously, and the sheer scale of the search area is overwhelming. Finding conclusive evidence for 50,000 men is like looking for a single specific grain of sand in a sea of dunes. The story of the lost army lives on, suspended between history and legend, a haunting reminder that the desert is a place where entire worlds and entire armies can simply disappear. It forces us to rewrite the first chapter of civilization. In the dusty hills of southeastern Turkey, the Göbekli Tepe complex stands as a monumental anomaly, a site so ancient it predates the invention of farming by thousands of years. Its builders were not settled farmers with surplus grain and a structured society. They were hunter-gatherers, people we have always pictured as nomadic bands, constantly moving to follow their food. Yet these people accomplished the impossible. They quarried and carved massive T-shaped limestone pillars, some weighing over 20 tons, and arranged them into vast circular enclosures. The pillars are not plain stone monoliths. They are masterpieces of prehistoric art, covered in finely carved reliefs of foxes, scorpions, vultures, and lions, a menagerie of the wild world they inhabited. The scale is bewildering. This was not a small shrine, but a cathedral complex built over centuries, requiring the coordinated labor of hundreds, perhaps thousands of people. How did they feed such a workforce without agriculture? How did they organize without a king, a pharaoh, or a central government? The very existence of Göbekli Tepe turns our traditional timeline on its head. We have always believed that agriculture came first, that settling down to farm created the surplus and social hierarchy that made grand projects like this possible. But here, the temple came first. This suggests a revolutionary idea that the human impulse to come together for a shared spiritual purpose, to build something greater than themselves, may have been the catalyst that eventually led to farming. Perhaps it was the need to feed the builders and pilgrims at this sacred site that prompted the first experiments with domesticating wheat and barley, which grew wild in these very hills. Then, as mysteriously as it was built, the entire complex was deliberately and carefully buried around 8,000 years before the Common Era. It was not abandoned to the elements. It was filled in with earth and stone, room by room, a conscious act of preservation that hid it from the world for millennia. Why would a people invest such staggering effort into a place only to entomb it? Was it a sacred retirement, a way to honor the spirits of the place without it falling into disrepair? Or was it an act of forgetting, a burial of old gods and a dangerous past that a new society wanted to leave behind? The silence of the buried stones offers no easy answer, only a profound challenge to everything we thought we knew about our own origins. A single monk working in the lonely silence of his cell could not have created this book. That is the only logical conclusion when you first lay eyes on the Codex Gigas, a manuscript so immense and heavy it requires two people to lift it. Known to history as the Devil's Bible, it is the largest surviving medieval manuscript in the world, a behemoth of knowledge and legend bound in a single staggering volume. Created in a Bohemian monastery in the early 13th century, the Codex contains the complete Latin Vulgate Bible, along with a raft of other essential texts, from historical chronicles to medical treatises. The sheer physicality of the book is overwhelming. It is composed of over 300 animal skins, a testament to an entire herd of donkeys, each page meticulously prepared and written upon. The legend that grew around its creation attempts to explain this impossible feat. It tells of a monk who broke his sacred vows and was sentenced to be walled up alive, a terrible punishment. In his desperation, the monk promised his captors he would write the greatest book the world had ever seen, one containing all human and divine knowledge in a single night. As midnight approached and the task seemed hopeless, the monk prayed not to God but to the fallen angel himself, Lucifer. Satan answered, completing the manuscript in exchange for the monk's soul. As a permanent, mocking signature, the devil added a terrifying full-page portrait of himself on the 291st page, a vivid image of a beastly, green-faced Satan alone in a barren landscape. This story, of course, is a folk tale, a supernatural explanation for a deeply human mystery. The true puzzle is not demonic but physical. Modern analysis of the ink and handwriting confirms that the entire manuscript was indeed written by a single, unidentified scribe. The script is remarkably consistent from the first page to the last, showing no signs of the deteriorating health or mental exhaustion you would expect from such a monumental task. How did one person accomplish this? The work would have taken not a single night, but an estimated 20 to 30 years of continuous, disciplined labor. Imagine the daily ritual, the grinding routine. Each day, the monk would have sharpened his quill, mixed his ink, and bent over the vast pages for hours on end, his back aching, his hand cramping, his eyes straining in the dim candlelight. He would have copied millions of words without a single significant error, a feat of almost inhuman concentration and endurance. Was he driven by a profound, obsessive faith, or by a penance so severe it became his entire life? The legend of the demonic pact endures because it is easier to believe in a single night of damnation than in a lifetime of silent, unyielding devotion. The portrait of the devil, then, is not a signature but a question. Was it a warning against temptation or a secret acknowledgement of the dark, lonely obsession that such a monumental task truly required? The sea holds its secrets even more tightly than the desert. For over 1,000 years, the city of Thonis Heraclean existed only in ancient texts and scattered inscriptions, a legendary port of entry to Egypt so grand it was thought to be a myth. Historians like Herodotus wrote of its immense wealth and strategic importance, the mandatory stop for all Greek ships before they could proceed up the Nile. Then, around the 8th century, it simply vanished, swallowed by the Mediterranean Sea. Its location became one of history's great unknowns, a ghost on the map. That changed in the year 2000 when underwater archaeologist Frank Gaudio and his team, after years of systematic survey in the murky waters of Abukir Bay, finally found it. The lost city was not just a story, it was real, preserved in a stunning state of ruin on the seafloor. The discoveries that followed were breathtaking. From the silt and shadows emerged colossal statues of a pharaoh and a queen, each standing over 16 feet tall, their serene faces gazing upward after centuries in the dark. They uncovered the ruins of the main temple dedicated to the god Amun-Jereb, its massive stone blocks scattered like a giant's forgotten toys. Among the debris were gold coins, delicate jewelry, and intricately carved steels, stone slabs covered in hieroglyphs that confirmed this was indeed the gateway to Egypt. Perhaps most telling were the remains of more than 60 ancient shipwrecks found in the harbor, their hulls telling a silent story of a bustling, cosmopolitan port that once connected the entire Mediterranean world. The prevailing theory for its catastrophic end is a cruel twist of geology. The city was built on unstable clay and silt, and it is believed that a series of earthquakes, followed by a slow liquefaction of the soil, caused entire sections of the coastline to simply give way, sinking the metropolis and its fortunes beneath the waves in a single dramatic event. The rediscovery of Heraclean is a powerful reminder that the past is not always buried. Sometimes it is submerged, waiting in the silent, dark water for its story to be told once more. Drawn on gazelle skin in the year 1513, a Turkish admiral's map presents a geographical paradox that has never been fully resolved. The Piri Reis map, named for its creator, is a fragment of a larger world chart that displays a knowledge of coastlines far beyond what any European explorer of the era should have possessed. It shows the western bulge of Africa with remarkable precision, and even more startlingly, the eastern coast of South America, a land only officially encountered by Europeans a few years prior. But the map's most baffling feature lies at its southern extreme, a landmass that seems to depict the northern coastline of Antarctica, a continent that would remain undiscovered by the Western world for another 300 years. This is not the frozen, ice-bound coast we know today, but a land free of its glacial covering, a detail that should have been impossible for any 16th century cartographer to record. So how did Piri Reis capture a landscape hidden under miles of ice? In his own marginal notes, the admiral openly admits he was not the original source of this information. He writes that he compiled his map from 20 different source charts, including one he attributes to Christopher Columbus, and most intriguingly, several that he describes as dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. This has led to a captivating and controversial theory that the Piri Reis map is actually a copy of a copy, a relic based on ancient sea charts drawn by a lost civilization with advanced seafaring knowledge, a culture that explored the world in a prehistoric warm period when Antarctica's coasts were indeed ice-free. Could the maps of these forgotten mariners have been preserved in the great libraries of Alexandria, only to be scattered and copied by later scholars, their fragments eventually finding their way into the hands of an Ottoman admiral? Skeptics offer a more conservative, though still fascinating, explanation. They propose that the controversial landmass is not Antarctica at all, but a speculative, mythical southern continent, a common cartographic convention of the time known as Terra Australis. Alternatively, it could be a badly distorted and misplaced version of the southern tip of South America, its coastline stretched and twisted to fit the admiral's parchment. Yet the problem of the accurate, ice-free coastline remains a stubborn detail that refuses to be easily dismissed. The map forces us to confront a haunting possibility that human history is far longer and more complex than our records show, and that the greatest discoveries of our past may have been mapped thousands of years ago, only to be lost, rediscovered, and misunderstood, their true meaning waiting for a future age to finally decipher their frozen secrets. Their discovery was an accident born of simple curiosity. In 1992, a farmer in Zhejiang province, China, decided to pump the water out of a small local pond, one his village had long considered bottomless. What he revealed was not a muddy pit, but the entrance to an immense man-made cavern. This was the first of the Longyu Caves, a sprawling, subterranean complex that had been hidden for centuries. What explorers found inside defied belief. There are 24 of these grottos in total, hand-carved from solid sandstone, covering a staggering 30,000 square meters underground. This is not a simple hole in the ground. Each cavern is a vast palace-like hall with soaring ceilings, massive supporting pillars, and stone bridges, all carved with an astonishing uniformity. The walls and ceilings are covered in a consistent, chiseled pattern of parallel lines, a masterful decorative touch that runs through every room, a signature of a single, organized vision. The sheer volume of rock that had to be removed to create this space is almost beyond comprehension. Conservative estimates suggest that nearly 1 million cubic meters of stone were excavated. That is enough rubble to build a small mountain, and yet there is not a single historical record, not one ancient text that mentions their construction. No local legend, no dynastic chronicle, not even a scrap of folklore hints at who built these caves or why they would undertake such a staggering project. The mystery deepens with the question of logistics. How did an ancient civilization working without modern machinery remove such an immense quantity of stone? And more bafflingly, where did they put it all? There are no massive spoil heaps in the surrounding countryside, no traces of this excavated mountain of rock anywhere in the region. It simply vanished, as if the earth had swallowed the evidence of its own transformation. The precision and scale point to a massive, state-sponsored project, yet history has no record of an emperor or a kingdom commanding such an effort in this area. The Longyu Caves stand as a silent, monumental paradox, a testament to an engineering feat so grand it should have defined an era, yet it left no name, no date, and no reason behind, a ghost project carved into the very bones of the earth. High on a plateau overlooking the ancient Inca capital of Cusco, a fortress of stone defies both time and tectonics. The walls of Sacsayhuaman are a breathtaking display of megalithic mastery, a puzzle of interlocking stone that has confounded engineers and archaeologists for centuries. These are not simple stacked blocks. Imagine stones the size of small buses, some weighing well over 100 tons, each one uniquely shaped with a dozen or more complex angles and facets. They fit together with a precision so absolute that you cannot slide a razor blade or even a single piece of paper between them. This was all accomplished without a single drop of mortar. The entire structure relies on the perfect, gravity-defying friction between these colossal puzzle pieces. The result is a wall that appears to be a single, flowing entity, a liquid stone tapestry frozen in time. The question of how the Inca achieved this is the core of the mystery. They had no iron tools, no wheels for transport, and no draft animals larger than the llama. The andesite stone was quarried from a site several miles away, across rugged mountain terrain. How did they move these titanic blocks? The prevailing theory involves an immense human effort, using log rollers, earthen ramps, and thousands of ropes, with teams of laborers slowly inching each stone into place through sheer coordinated force. But the cutting process is an even greater enigma. How did they achieve such flawless, intricate joints? Some researchers suggest they used a method of trial and error, repeatedly lowering a block onto the one below, then grinding the contact points with sand and water until the fit was perfect. Others point to the possibility of a lost technique, perhaps involving the use of certain plants to soften the stone surface, making it malleable for a short period. The genius of this design, however, extends far beyond its construction. This interlocking, jigsaw-like pattern is the very reason the walls still stand today, while modern buildings in Cusco crumble during earthquakes. When the ground shakes, the stones of Sacsayhuaman do not resist the motion, they dance with it. They shift and sway, settling and then settling back into place, absorbing the seismic energy without collapsing. They are not rigid, they are resilient. This ancient understanding of dynamic forces is a humbling legacy, a secret held within the stone that we are still striving to fully comprehend. Were the Inca master stonemasons simply applying generations of observed knowledge, or did they possess a sophisticated, lost science of geology and engineering, one that allowed them to build for eternity? Carved into the stone walls of the Hatha temple at Dendera is an image that seems to defy its own era. Within a large, glass-like bulb, a snake stretches the full length of its interior, its head pointing toward a socket connected by a cable to a box held firmly by a priest. To the modern eye, it is an uncanny depiction of an electric light bulb, complete with a filament and a power source. This is the Dendera light, a bas-relief that has become a cornerstone for theories of ancient advanced technology. The interpretation is seductively simple, suggesting the Egyptians might have harnessed electricity to illuminate their dark, subterranean chambers, a secret knowledge lost to the sands of time. This idea often finds a companion in the Baghdad battery, with proponents arguing that these two artifacts together form a coherent picture of forgotten electrical prowess. Yet, mainstream Egyptology offers a very different and deeply symbolic reading. Scholars point out that the scene is part of a larger cosmological narrative. The bulb is not a bulb at all, but a representation of a lotus flower, a sacred symbol of creation. The snake emerging from it is a cobra, associated with the gods and the concept of divine birth and fertility. The entire scene is a well-known motif from Egyptian mythology, depicting the moment of creation where a god emerges from the primordial waters, symbolized by the lotus, to bring life to the world. The cable is not a wire but a lotus stem, and the box held by the priest is a jed pillar, a symbol of stability. So why does the ancient electricity theory persist with such vigor, even in the face of established academic consensus? It speaks to a powerful human desire to see our ancestors as more technologically advanced than we believed, to find evidence that brilliant flashes of modern knowledge appeared far earlier in our story. The Dendera light is a perfect Rorschach test, a vague enough image that we can project our own technological world view onto it, seeing a light bulb where an ancient priest saw the birth of a universe. It forces us to ask whether we are uncovering a lost truth or simply telling ourselves a story we desperately wish were true. Beneath the waves off Japan's remote Yonaguni Island lies a structure that seems to defy nature itself. Submerged in clear, blue water, a colossal stone formation rises from the seafloor, Its surface is a stark geometry of sharp 90-degree angles, flat terraces, and what look unmistakably like steps carved by a giant's hand. This is the Yonaguni Monument, a sprawling underwater puzzle that has divided experts for decades. On one side, geologists present a compelling case for nature's artistry. They explain that the sandstone in this area is heavily fractured along natural parallel lines and joints. Over thousands of years, powerful tidal currents could have persistently eroded these weaker lines, sculpting the rock into the massive, angular terraces and platforms we see today. The steps, they argue, are simply the result of large slabs cleaving away along these pre-existing fractures, creating the illusion of human design. Yet, how do we explain the two tall, perfectly vertical pillars standing side by side, or the precise, star-shaped indentation on one of the upper surfaces? These are the details that fuel the opposing argument. Archaeologists and proponents of a man-made origin point to features that seem to have no easy natural explanation. They highlight a long, straight trench running along the base of the formation, a narrow tunnel that appears carved, and a distinct triangular shape that looks too symmetrical to be random. Could this be the remnant of a lost civilization, a Japanese Atlantis that sank beneath the rising seas at the end of the last ice age over 10,000 years ago? This theory posits that the monument was once a ceremonial center or a fortress on dry land, its steps and terraces built for a purpose we can only guess at. The debate is a stalemate of perspectives, a clash between seeing a masterpiece of geology and the ghost of a forgotten human hand. Perhaps the most haunting possibility is that the truth lies somewhere in between. Maybe ancient peoples did find this naturally sculpted, awe-inspiring place, and they enhanced it, carving their own channels and altars into the stone, making a sacred natural wonder their own. The Yonaguni Monument does not offer its secrets easily, its true story whispered away by the endless motion of the sea. A stark granite monument stood in rural Georgia for decades, its message etched in stone for a future age. The Georgia Guidestones were not ancient, erected only in 1980, but their origin and purpose became a modern enigma that captivated and disturbed the world. This 20-foot-tall structure, often called America's Stonehenge, featured 10 guiding principles for humanity carved into its massive panels in 8 modern languages, from English and Spanish to Hindi and Swahili, alongside 4 ancient scripts like Babylonian cuneiform and Egyptian hieroglyphics. The directives themselves were the core of the controversy. They called for guiding reproduction wisely to maintain a global human population of just 500 million people, a staggering reduction from our current billions. Other commandments advocated for unifying humanity with a new global language, balancing personal rights with social duties and leaving room for nature. Who would commission such a thing, and for what audience? The man who paid for it all arrived in town using the pseudonym R.C. Christian, a name he insisted was symbolic. He worked through a local granite company and a bank, his true identity remaining a closely guarded secret to this day. Was he a visionary, a doomsday cultist, or simply an eccentric with immense resources? The monument's cold, utilitarian language, speaking of population control from a position of anonymity, sparked intense debate. Some saw it as a well-intentioned, if severe, blueprint for saving humanity from itself, a set of instructions for rebuilding civilization after a potential apocalyptic event. Others interpreted it as something far more sinister, a dark agenda for global control and depopulation hidden in plain sight. This deep division ensured the Guidestones were never just a curious landmark, they were a lightning rod for conspiracy theories and public argument. The mystery reached its violent conclusion in 2022 when an unknown individual detonated an explosive device at the site, severely damaging the structure. Later, the county authorities, citing safety concerns, completely demolished the remaining pillars. The stones are gone now, but the questions they raised linger in the air. Were they a warning we were meant to decipher or a prophecy we were meant to fear? Their physical destruction did not erase their cryptic message, it only sealed its enigmatic legacy in the modern world. While the Moai stand as silent giants above ground, a different kind of enigma survives on wood. Scattered across the few remaining artifacts of Rapa Nui culture are intricately carved tablets, covered from edge to edge in a fluid script of tiny, stylized figures. This is Rongo Rongo, a beautiful and baffling code that is the only indigenous writing system ever discovered in the entire Pacific. Birds, fish, human forms, and geometric shapes flow together in a precise, rhythmic order, a language in wood that no outsider has ever understood. The tragedy is that this knowledge was not always lost. When the first European missionaries arrived in the 1860s, they recorded that certain elder men, high-ranking chiefs or priests, could read the tablets, chanting the texts aloud in a ritual cadence. But this living link to the past was catastrophically severed. Shortly after this contact, Peruvian slave raiders descended upon the island, abducting over half the population, including, in all likelihood, every single person who knew how to read the sacred script. In one brutal, swift stroke, the key to Rongo Rongo was thrown into the sea of time. Was it a full writing system capable of recording complex history and poetry, or was it a form of proto-writing, a memory aid for reciting well-known chants and genealogies? The glyphs show clear signs of a sophisticated structure. They are written in a unique pattern called reverse Boustrafedon, meaning the reader must turn the tablet 180 degrees at the end of each line, as if the text snakes back and forth in a continuous loop. This deliberate complexity suggests it was designed to hold real information, not just simple reminders. Some researchers believe the symbols encode creation myths, while others see them as detailed records of astronomical cycles, crucial for navigating the vast ocean or for timing ceremonies. Without the living voice of a reader, however, every theory remains a guess. The wooden tablets themselves are slowly deteriorating, and with them, the last physical chance to ever hear the story of Easter Island from its original authors. Rongo Rongo is more than an undeciphered script. It is the ghost of a civilization's voice, a final message we can see but cannot hear, a library of knowledge whose shelves we can touch but whose books we will never read. His ambition was to rule not just an empire but eternity itself. The first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang, constructed a burial complex so vast and so elaborate that its full scale remains a secret 2,000 years later. While the famous terracotta army of thousands of life-sized soldiers has been partially uncovered, these clay warriors are merely the outer guard, stationed in the perimeter trenches to protect the true prize, the emperor's central tomb mound. Ancient historians wrote of a subterranean universe sealed within that earthen hill, a miniature kingdom for the emperor's spirit to command in the afterlife. Their accounts describe palaces filled with priceless treasures, ceilings inlaid with pearls to mimic the night sky, and intricate models of his entire empire, complete with flowing rivers of shimmering mercury, mechanically circulated to simulate their eternal flow. For decades, these stories were dismissed as poetic exaggeration, but modern science has delivered a stunning validation. Soil tests around the tomb mound have revealed extraordinarily high concentrations of mercury, levels so significant they far exceed normal background readings, lending powerful credibility to those ancient tales of liquid metal rivers. This discovery is what makes the tomb both a tantalizing target and an archaeological impasse. The potential for catastrophic damage to fragile, organic artifacts like silks, wooden items, and the emperor's own remains is immense. The moment that sealed environment is breached, the very objects they seek to preserve could begin to disintegrate, and then there are the legends of the tomb's defenses. The same historical records speak of mechanically triggered crossbows set to fire at any intruder, and vast pools of mercury that would release poisonous fumes, creating a deadly atmosphere for any would-be plunderer. Are these stories of booby traps merely myths designed to deter thieves? or did the emperor's engineers devise a system of protection as ingenious as his vision for the afterlife? The choice for modern archaeologists is a profound one, a delicate balance between the hunger for knowledge and the responsibility of preservation. To open the tomb is to risk destroying the very things we wish to understand. So for now, the heart of the complex remains sealed, a time capsule of unimaginable artistry and power. We can only wonder what masterpieces of art, what lost libraries of knowledge, and what final secrets of China's first unifier lie in the dark, waiting for a future generation with the technology to safely reveal them. Beneath the quiet fields and modern cities of Europe lies a hidden world, a labyrinth of tunnels so ancient their builders left no written name. These are the Erdstalls, subterranean passageways carved from solid rock, stretching in a vast, fragmented network from the Scottish Highlands all the way to the Turkish coast. Their construction dates back over 5,000 years to the Neolithic era, a time we often picture as one of simple farmers and primitive tools, yet these tunnels speak of a different reality. They are impossibly narrow, often just wide enough for a single person to squeeze through, their ceilings so low that you would have to crawl on your hands and knees, the cold stone pressing in from all sides. Some sections feature vertical shafts like stone chimneys, connecting different levels of this dark, claustrophobic maze. What drove Stone Age communities to invest such colossal effort, digging these intricate warrens deep into the earth with nothing more than antler picks and stone tools? The most practical theory suggests they were used for storage, perfect for keeping food cool and safe from scavengers, or as temporary shelters during raids or harsh winters. But the design feels strangely ritualistic. The tunnels often have sharp 90-degree turns, features that serve no obvious defensive or storage purpose, but which could have held deep spiritual meaning, perhaps symbolizing a difficult transition from one state of being to another. This leads to another compelling idea, that these were sacred spaces for initiation rites or communion with chthonic gods, the earth deities of the underworld. A person might have been led blindfolded through the twisting darkness, emerging into a central chamber for a ceremony that transformed them. Then there is the most ambitious theory of all, that these were not isolated crypts but parts of a subterranean highway system, a secret web connecting distant settlements, allowing for the safe, unseen movement of people, goods, and information across a dangerous landscape. Imagine a Stone Age traveler knowing that at certain points in the forest, a hidden entrance would lead to a protected path underground. The sheer scale of this coordinated effort is what truly staggers the mind. This was not the work of a single village, but of a culture with a shared vision, a common purpose that compelled generation after generation to keep digging. The true function of the Erdstalls may have been all of these things at once, a combination of pantry, sanctuary, temple, and secret road. Their silence is a profound reminder that the world of our deepest past was not a simple one, but a place of immense complexity, whose greatest works were not built to reach the sky, but to vanish quietly and deliberately beneath the ground. A routine brick worker's shovel struck something far more profound than clay in 1986, unearthing a mystery that would shatter the conventional narrative of Chinese civilization. In the quiet Sichuan countryside, at a site known as Sangsingdui, two sacrificial pits yielded a treasure that defied all expectation. There were no graceful vases or ceremonial tripods like those found in the Shang dynasty to the north. Instead, workers pulled forth a gallery of the surreal, bronze faces with massive, angular eyes that swept out to dramatic points, gilded masks of thin gold leaf, and a towering bronze figure over 8 feet tall. A bronze tree stretched toward the sky, its branches adorned with birds and flowers, a testament to a cosmology entirely its own. The artifacts were technically brilliant, demonstrating a mastery of bronze casting that rivaled any culture on Earth, but their aesthetic was jarringly unique, almost alien. These were not the artistic ancestors of the Chinese empires that would follow. They were the products of a separate, parallel kingdom of astounding sophistication, a civilization that had flourished in the Sichuan Basin for centuries, completely unknown to history. Then, around 1,000 years before the Common Era, it all came to a sudden, inexplicable end. The workshops fell silent, the rituals ceased, and the Sangsingdui civilization vanished. The most haunting aspect is the complete absence of a successor. This vibrant culture, with its singular artistic vision and technological prowess, left no written records and no clear descendants who carried on its traditions. Its unique style simply stops as if cut from the timeline. What catastrophic event could erase a society so completely? Some archaeologists point to evidence of a massive earthquake or a devastating flood that may have rerouted the Minjong River, destroying their agricultural base and forcing a sudden, chaotic migration. Others suggest internal rebellion or a brutal conquest by a rival state, though no evidence of such an invader has been found. Perhaps the most thought-provoking theory is that they did not vanish but deliberately dispersed, their people assimilating into neighboring cultures and losing their distinct identity over generations. The silence of Sangsingdui is a powerful reminder that history is not a single, unbroken thread, but a tapestry woven from countless strands, some of which were snipped short, their patterns lost to time, leaving behind only ghostly, bronze faces to stare back at us across the void. Deep on the murky floor of the Baltic Sea, a shape rests that should not exist. In 2011, a team of Swedish ocean explorers led by Peter Lindberg was scanning for shipwrecks when their sonar painted a picture of something utterly bizarre. There, over 250 feet below the surface, was a massive, circular object nearly 200 feet across. Its silhouette was not the soft, organic form of a rock or a natural formation. Instead, the sonar image revealed stark, straight edges, perfect right angles, and a long, straight tail extending behind it. The main structure even appeared to feature what looked like a staircase leading to a dark opening. The internet quickly gave it a pop culture nickname, the Millennium Falcon, for its uncanny resemblance to the iconic starship. Such geometric precision in nature is almost unheard of, and the discovery instantly ignited a firestorm of speculation. Geologists were quick to offer a rational explanation. They proposed that the anomaly could be a large glacial erratic, a deposit of rock and debris left behind by a retreating ice age glacier thousands of years ago. They argued that the straight lines and angles could be the result of jointed bedrock, fractured in a way that creates deceptively artificial-looking patterns. Another more grounded theory suggested it was a remnant from the World Wars, perhaps a secret Nazi anti-submarine device or a sunken listening post designed to detect enemy ships, its metal framework now crusted over and distorted by decades on the seafloor. Yet the data gathered from subsequent expeditions only deepened the mystery. Divers reported that their electrical equipment, like satellite phones and cameras, would mysteriously fail when they approached the object, only to function normally again once they ascended. Some samples retrieved from the site were claimed to contain metals not naturally found in that combination, fueling the most sensational theory of all, that this was the wreckage of a crashed extraterrestrial vehicle, a relic resting in the cold, dark silence. The truth, however, remains frustratingly out of focus. The Baltic Sea is a notoriously difficult environment for exploration, with poor visibility, shifting sediments, and the sheer logistical challenge of deep water investigation. The anomaly sits on the edge of scientific consensus, a Rorschach test in the deep. Are we seeing a rare but entirely natural geological sculpture, or are we glimpsing the edges of a secret from our own world, or perhaps even from beyond it? The dark water holds its answer close, a silent, angular question mark on the seafloor. There is a sound in the silence of the desert that only a few can hear. In the tranquil town of Taos, New Mexico, a low, persistent drone tortures a small fraction of the population, a phenomenon known as the Taos hum. For those who perceive it, the hum is an inescapable presence, a rumbling vibration often compared to a distant diesel engine idling forever just beyond the horizon. It permeates their homes, disrupts their sleep, and imposes a unique form of isolation, as friends and family who cannot hear it struggle to understand their distress. This is not a matter of simple noise pollution, but a deeply personal sensory experience that divides the world into two groups, hearers and non-hearers. The quest to identify the source of this auditory ghost has been as persistent as the sound itself. Official investigations were launched, with teams of scientists and engineers descending upon the area with sensitive microphones and vibration sensors. They tested for every conceivable cause, from hidden industrial machinery and high-voltage power lines to secret military communications and underground gas pipelines. Yet their instruments consistently registered nothing out of the ordinary. The hum was a phantom, detectable by the human ear but invisible to technology. This failure to find a physical source led some to propose a psychological explanation, suggesting the phenomenon was a form of mass psychogenic illness, where the power of suggestion causes people to hear a sound that is not physically present. Yet this theory fails to satisfy many hearers who report the hum with a consistency and desperation that feels too genuine to be dismissed as collective delusion. Other, more speculative theories point to geological causes, such as the slow, grinding movement of tectonic plates deep underground generating a pervasive infrasound, a frequency too low for most people to consciously hear, but which a sensitive few can somehow perceive. The Tao's hum is not alone. Similar unexplained sounds have been reported in places as far-flung as Bristol, England, and Largs, Scotland, creating a global community of the acoustically haunted. The enduring mystery of the hum forces a profound question about the limits of human perception. Are these individuals tuning into a frequency of the Earth itself, a secret vibration of the planet, or is their experience a glimpse into the strange and variable nature of our own biology? Without a definitive source, the hum remains a private torment for some and an unsolved public riddle for all, a reminder that some of the world's most pervasive mysteries are not seen but heard in the quietest moments. Few artifacts have ever inspired such a profound collision of faith and science. The Shroud of Turin is a length of ancient linen that bears the faint, straw-colored imprint of a man who has been brutally scourged and crucified. For millions of the faithful, this is the actual burial cloth of Jesus of Nazareth, a sacred relic that captured his image at the moment of resurrection. The details are hauntingly specific, showing wounds consistent with a crown of thorns, a lance thrust to the side, and marks across the back that match a Roman flagrum. The image itself is a perfect photographic negative, a quality only fully revealed when the first photographs were taken in 1898, revealing a positive image of startling clarity and depth. The mystery of its creation seemed on the verge of being solved in 1988, when the Vatican permitted a rigorous scientific test. Small samples from a corner of the shroud were sent to 3 independent laboratories in Oxford, Zurich, and Tucson for radiocarbon dating. The results were unanimous, placing the linen's origin squarely in the medieval period between 1260 and 1390. To the scientific community, the case was closed. The shroud was a clever, if inexplicable, medieval forgery, yet the story did not end there. Almost immediately, challenges to the carbon dating emerged. Critics pointed to the sample itself, taken from a corner of the cloth that had been handled for centuries, potentially contaminated by oils from human hands, smoke from a fire that damaged the shroud in the 1530s, and even microbial growth that could have skewed the carbon signature. Some researchers proposed that the fire itself and the high temperatures it generated could have altered the carbon isotopes in the linen, making a first-century cloth appear centuries younger. This debate over a single test reveals a deeper question: how much can we trust our most advanced tools when applied to a unique and uniquely handled object? The greater enigma, however, is the image itself. How was it made? The coloration is only on the very topmost fibers of the threads, with no capillary flow of any pigment, meaning it was not painted. It possesses a perfect three-dimensional data set, as if the cloth recorded a brief, intense burst of energy radiating from the body within it. No known medieval technique, nor any natural process proposed so far, can adequately explain this. It is not a scorch, nor a chemical reaction from aloe and myrrh, nor a simple contact impression. The image remains a perfect, inexplicable mystery, a spectral photograph from the depths of time that challenges our understanding of history, science, and the very nature of belief. The final mystery carries us from the desert floor to the deepest reaches of space. It was a quiet summer night in 1977 when a radio telescope at Ohio State University, known as the Big Ear, picked up something extraordinary. For 72 seconds, a powerful, focused burst of energy slammed into the receiver, a signal so intense and so perfectly tuned that it defied any known natural explanation. The data printout showed a string of letters and numbers, and right there in the margin, the astronomer on duty, Jerry Amon, scrawled a single telling word in red ink: "Wow." This was not the random hiss of a distant quasar or the pulse of a dying star. It was a narrowband radio signal, the exact kind of transmission a technologically advanced civilization might use to announce its presence across the cosmos. It came from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius, a crowded part of the galaxy, and then, just as suddenly as it arrived, it vanished. It has never been heard again, despite decades of dedicated listening. Was it a fleeting, one-time cosmic event we simply do not yet understand? Or was it a message, a cosmic hello that lasted just long enough to capture our attention before fading back into the eternal silence? The WOW signal stands alone, a perfect enigma etched on a slip of paper, a ghost in the machine that continues to haunt our search for other minds in the universe. It is a reminder that the greatest mysteries are not always buried in sand or stone, but can arrive on a frequency only we can hear, a brief, brilliant question mark hanging in the void. From the silent hum of the cosmos to the ghostly imprint on a shroud, we have journeyed across continents and millennia through 35 of history's most beguiling desert mysteries. These are not mere footnotes in a textbook, they are gaping chasms in our understanding of the human story. Each vanished city, each indecipherable script, and each artifact of impossible technology stands as a stark reminder that our recorded history is merely a flickering candle in a vast, dark cavern of forgotten time. The true magnitude of our past remains brilliantly, tantalizingly out of focus. This relentless human drive to explore, to dig, and to decipher is what connects us to every soul who ever looked at a strange stone or a weathered map and felt that same spark of curiosity. It is the same impulse that sends archaeologists into blistering sands and astronomers scanning the silent stars. We are all part of this grand, unending quest to solve the puzzle of our own origins. So we turn this final question over to you. Of all the enigmas we have uncovered today, which one captured your imagination? Was it the silent army of terracotta warriors, the sunken city of Heracleon, or the cosmic question of the WOW signal? Let us know in the comments below, and if you are hungry for more journeys into the unknown, be sure to subscribe. The next great discovery is always waiting, hidden just beneath the sands or perhaps written in the stars.